right? You got me? They sent me on assignment somewhere, and instead of giving me a hotel, they got me an Airbnb at a random family's home. So I hope everything's working right now.
Brutal. I hope hope the accommodations are nice.
Yeah, it's nice if you want to wake up at like 7 a.m. because kids are screaming and you're trying to get breakfast, but it's fine. Everything's fine. We're
Well,
not going under at all.
you got to be ready to party, man. I got a
Exactly.
My floor director just broke the soap in the bathroom, so that was a
Oh
whole
no.
debacle. Just fucking glass shattered everywhere. Like spent the
Well,
whole lead up cleaning up glass and soap. Not the
you know
best
what?
way to start.
Your floor director seems suspicious, and we need to keep an eye on him because now he's moving up the suspect list of who's leaking our stuff.
Yeah, you can't trust her. She's a little dodgy. She's a little bit of a villain, so it's definitely
Won't
possible.
make eye contact. Hits
Yeah,
those
no,
soap
it's like
dispenser too
I
hard.
asked for things. She's just like, no, I'm not getting you that. Like,
I don't feel like it.
keeps
Oh, so she
offering
must
to
be
cut
like,
my hair. Like, I'm just like, like I think I need to have this professionally done. Like, I don't know, but
right.
we'll see. It's the stretch run. It's the holiday season.
Yeah. It
Shows
can
are
get
almost
sleepy.
done. We're almost done for the
Yeah.
year. It's flown by.
Yeah. This is what's crazy about these weeks is, to your point, it's the holidays. Everyone's kind of coasting. Oh, all of a sudden these Thursday games pop up. But what's scary is these are like really crucial weeks, right? These are the ones that get you in or out of the playoffs, and you need to lock in more than that. And I know, look, it's always fun to get a few drinks in the day before Thanksgiving and then wake up a little late. But if we're serious about fantasy, like you gotta make sure you're on it.
This is where you find out who's serious and who's not.
Right.
Like this time of year, it's like the people who are over it, they just stop making moves. I had one league where me and one other guy were the only people to make moves on waivers this week. I was like, yep, we know who's serious and who's just taking this. I mean, it is, my least important league, but still, you got to make moves. Like, there are quality
Yeah,
players out there.
definitely. And there's things you can do right now to prepare for the playoffs or prepare for your opponents, especially catching them asleep. I agree. There's like all of a sudden there's a couple guys after waivers like, oh, I can just pick these guys up. I don't need to, I don't need to put any fat money on these guys. That's kind of crazy. I'm like anyone else awake, but this is the time to sneak up on them and be more prepared than the others. And then you can have a great Thanksgiving, right? Then you can just sit back and watch, even though these Thanksgiving slate games are horrendous.
Yeah, it's not ideal for Thanksgiving
No.
games, but that's still another week away. We've got a week incoming here. Uh, you know, I think it's interesting. Producers change it up a little bit. It's good little
Sure.
change up. We got a different show coming for the rest of the season,
Yeah.
or at least for the
Yeah.
next
We need to
few
definitely
weeks.
prepare for this type of show. Because they want us to switch it up. I don't know if it's the ratings, look at where I'm at. Who knows? But I think there's some good ideas that we need to discuss. So we better do this right, apparently.
They can afford something,
Right, right.
it's not like they're getting sold. Hopefully they don't sell us off in that Comcast bundle.
Oh yeah, although maybe we'll have more resources, but hope not, because I like how we're doing it so far.
Yeah, and so we got some end game or mid to end game kind of
Yeah.
strategies that they want us to go over. You got a few ideas for what you do this time of year or what you notice other people doing?
Yeah, I like to pick up backup running backs at this point. It's getting cold. There's going to be stingers. It's going to be a grueling time of the year. And quite frankly, we've talked about it in nauseum on the show, man. Like I can't believe these running backs are still in full gear this late in the season. Uh Isaiah Pacheco's the only one that's been hurt and he's coming back, and so it's
Yeah,
kind of
one more
bizarre.
week for Kareem
Yeah,
Hunt, then Pacheco will be
yeah,
back.
exactly. So like this guy hadn't even had a season-ending surgery, so he will be back before you know it, and we haven't seen a major injury. Now I'm not rooting for injuries, but this is the time of year where things get a little stiffer. You're late in the season, things hurt a little bit more. So, like an Aaron Jones who's shown a little bit of fragileness, like a Cam Akers would be great to just stash on your bench. I mean, running backs as a whole already is slim. So why not just hold on to these one or two backup running backs where you think, hey, this guy's a little banged up and this might be a good move?
Yeah, well, with so many buys this week, I've seen a guy in my league is starting Cam Akers. So that's
Yeah.
not just a stash. Like you got to plug and
Yeah.
play these guys. The Oakland running backs, Amir Abdullah is starting this week. I mean, that's
But
getting a
spin
little
the wheels.
dicey. Like, yeah, just pick them up and start them. Like what are you gonna
Right.
do now? Do you prefer grabbing a guy that's like your handcuff, like you've got a James Conner, so you grab Trey Benson, or are you looking more to grab a Trey Benson or Jalen
Yeah.
Wright? Like a guy that you don't have the starter for. Are you trying to hope that?
I try to do, yeah, I think with the James Conner, if you can get Trey Benson, that's great. It's just you have to decide who do you think James Conner is going to last the rest of the season? He looks pretty healthy this year. If you feel a little uneasy, yeah, go get a Trey Benson. But if you want to take your chances and kind of spread the love and see, oh, well, I hope James Conner doesn't go down, but it'd be great if Raheem Mostert or Devon Achane went down. So that you can kind of spread it out the wealth a little bit. The handcuffs are great too. I do think Trey Benson would be a good handcuff. Like if they're solid, hey, this guy can get you 10 plus points if he were to be a starter. Sure, that's a great option, but there's not many handcuffs out there anymore. As well as you said, like Cam Akers, that was an example. But you're right, people are snatching up because he is getting enough carries to be viable to be like a flex or RB2.
Yeah, and this time of year is a good time to check the waiver wire. There's so many buys going on right now. Some of these guys that they've held for a long time. If you don't have James Conner, Trey Benson is kind of like a luxury you might not be able to afford this time of year. He might get dropped. Look for your top players' handcuffs to get
Exactly.
dropped. I think it's more important to have your running backs handcuffs this time of year than someone else's because if that other back goes down, great, but are you going to start him over your starters? Whereas if your starter goes down and you don't have that handcuff, you might be
Sure.
stuck starting,
Shit out of
Dylan
luck.
Lobb. Like you don't want to start the Raiders' fourth running back that's pressed into
Right.
service or trying to start a guy that's truly more of a backup running back and just hoping
Right.
he gets touches. Jonathan Brooks, we thought he was going to be a good player this year. Like
Where's he
he's
been?
finally
Right.
going to play, but you don't want to start him. And one of my
No.
strategies this time of year is to look forward at the schedule. I mean, really looking at who teams are playing through the playoffs,
Yeah.
making sure you have good matchups for your wide receivers and running backs, but more importantly for defenses. I mean, defense
Yeah.
is so matchup based. Arizona Cardinals are one team that's got pretty good matchups all the way through week 16. So that's a nice grab. They're a mid tier defense, so they're probably available. But having two defenses this time of year, maybe even three, if you have that luxury of enough roster space or you're, confident enough in your starters that you can do it, you got to be prepared for the postseason if you're in a position where you're going to make the playoffs. If you're fighting for your life to get in, you probably are going to have to go
Right.
more week to week. But the defense can make the difference between winning and losing these last few weeks. I mean, at least looking forward the next week and making sure, do I have a defense that I'm comfortable playing? The Chargers have some bad matchups the next couple of weeks, but
Right.
then they have good matchups through the fantasy playoffs. So keeping an eye on that. And then also even quarterback and tight end. Like, you don't necessarily need a backup quarterback and tight end in redraft through the regular season, but now we get to crunch time. You don't want to, if you had Purdy and now you're looking at it like, oh, am I going to start, you know, a Russell Wilson, like who knows who's out there on waivers. All the Bo Nix and Geno Smiths have been picked up. Like you're looking
Or
at
Gardner
starting Caleb
Minshew's.
Williams, like, like yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully you're not dipping down into that Tommy DeVito and all these backups that are starting to emerge as starters for the rest of the
Right.
year.
Man, poor Daniel Jones. We'll get into that. Yeah, I those are really great to think about. Also, real quick, one thing I really love to do is to pick up players that your opponent may need. Injuries are happening.
You're an
You're there.
asshole.
Yeah, I am an asshole, but like I need to win. Like now the opponent I have, I'm like picking up all these backup running backs, so he can't have them, and he has to start Trey Benson against me, and I have James Conner, and I feel pretty good about making him have to do that. So, when you can, it's try to be one step ahead of your opponent. If you're week by week, like that's all that matters at this point is just get those wins. So we'll see what happens. Crunch time, baby. This is what they call crunch time.
Going for the blocks, thinking you're Wembyama out there, like
Yeah,
stretching long
exactly.
and going for the block week in and week out. Another
Yeah,
new segment they got us doing: start, hold, cut, and we're gonna do it
yeah,
for
I like it.
redraft and dynasty. We got a solid list,
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
let's kind of go over the players that we've got. Make sure we're not gonna agree. One of us can go start, one of us can go hold.
Yeah.
Hopefully
You
we're
want to
not.
start with
One of us wants
redraft
to.
first?
Yeah, let's do redraft first. But I mean, hopefully we're not
Okay.
so far apart that one of us wants to start a guy, one of us wants to cut him. But we'll see. I mean, I
Well,
guess this time of year, the
got to
guys
make
who are
it.
on that fence are kind of hard to
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, and we got to make it interesting for our viewers, right? When the show comes, so the producers don't yell at us to just agree the whole time. It's
Yeah,
sports. Yeah, sports is where you always agree with each other, right? Isn't that isn't that why people watch sports?
got to come in hot and get them hooked.
Yeah. All right.
Certainly.
Who's first on the list?
We got Rome Adunze.
Okay. What side do you want? What do you think?
Uh, I'm on the fence between start and hold. I've got him starting in one league this week because I got so many
Yeah.
buys. So I'd probably go, start. Right? I'm fine with hold too if you are more of you want to cut him loose. But as a rookie, I think it's a good time to kind of stash him on the bench and see, especially with the new offensive coordinator there in Chicago.
Yeah, I think for Roma Dunze, I'm more on the other side of you, and this isn't even for TV. This is what I actually think. Rome Dunze has a ton of potential. Don't get me wrong. It's been hard to watch Malik Neighbors actually contribute the way he has versus Roma Dunze when those guys were kind of ranked similarly. I know Malik Neighbors was a little higher, and clearly there's a reason why. But to your point, a new offensive coordinator. When I think of new offensive coordinator, I don't think, oh, Roma Dunze is gonna actually produce. I think DJ Moore is gonna get more targets, is what I see it as. So that's more targets for him. A stronger running game. We saw Roshan Johnson get a couple more carries than he usually does. He's getting the goal lines. DeAndre Swift is having a great year. I think the odd man out right now is Roma Dunze. And if he does not produce this week, or there is no sign of producing, I just think that it's time to cut him loose and see what else is out there and stash on your bench. Because even if like, DJ Moore saw the uptick last week, Roma Dunze had 4 targets, 1 reception, 11 yards last week. And Caleb Williams is kind of in a weird holding pattern at this point. So I just I don't think oh, I got the wrong game. See, he actually had a good game. My bad. My bad. You're right.
Okay,
I looked at the
I
wrong
was like,
stat.
man, I swear, I saw his stats
No, no,
the other
you
when I was looking to
this is
start
my
him. I was like, he's got a
this
good
is my
matchup this week. I'm
yeah.
just gonna go
But
all the way on the opposite side. I'm gonna say fuck you, and I'm gonna say he's a start. Let's just start off hot, get him angry, get him riled up. I think he's a start. He's got over
yeah,
6 targets all of the last 4 weeks.
right.
This guy's producing from yards. We've seen him hit his ceiling, 100 yards and a touchdown. I don't know if we've seen DJ Moore do that once this year.
Right. Sure.
And it's like DJ Moore could be traded this offseason. It could be that they're ready to move on from him. Keenan Allen's not long there. Roma Dunze is the long-term guy. Like he's got to figure it out
Yeah.
with Caleb Williams. That's a connection they're banking on for years to come. So I think he's a start this week with a good matchup and high volume. He's a deep threat. He's a touchdown threat. He's big. And let's see them use him the way he should be used. He should be an elite receiver. He's was drafted clearly ahead of Brian
Yeah.
Thomas. He should be producing like Brian Thomas. Let's see them use him like Brian Thomas, and then we'll get some results. I like him as a start.
Yeah. I think you hold on. For me, you hold on to him for a couple more, a week or two, and if he just doesn't get those touchdowns or his uptick doesn't go up as much, yes, he has like 8-9 points in a half PPR league, but I just think Caleb Williams is just too inconsistent right now to have someone who you want to throw out. Like like here's what an example, Ricky Pearsall. You're like, wow, he finally had the week that he was supposed to have, and then he goes out and gets a goose egg. I just think these rookie quarter running or wide receivers in these systems, you just aren't are just unpredictable. Yes, you can play matchups, but even then, you don't know what their workload's going to be from week to week.
Even more unpredictable, Sean Payton with his backfield and those running backs. Who the fuck
I
knows who
warned
he's going to
us.
throw out there each and
I
every
was,
week? And it's the hot hand approach. What year is this? Like, are we back in 2010 where everybody's like, we're doing running back by committee? It's a bunch of
yeah,
bullshit. Like, you should
yeah.
have who's your best running back? You can't figure that out by week 12. You can't figure out who your best running back is. You can't move on. It's too late to trade Javonte Williams. What are you
I know who
doing?
the best running back is. I know who the best. It's Bo Nix. That's their
Yeah,
best running
that's
back.
probably part of the problem. So, talking Audric Estime, I like him as a hold or a cut. I'm definitely not one to start him after last week, one carry. I did start him
Yeah,
last week, and that fucking blew up in my face. So,
yeah.
no, I'm more on the hold cut. What are you thinking for Estime?
Look, I know the producers want us to disagree on some of this, but how the hell do I make a case for any of these Denver running backs? Javonte Williams is clearly the most skilled overall running back in the backfield, but Sean Payton clearly does not like to. He's like, "Oh, you did great last game." I don't know, man. I can't give you two good games in a row, so it's kind of bizarre. I do think it's a you hold and you wait a week or two, see what the pattern is, if you can find a pattern in it all. I just think estimate like he got what 50% plus of the carries the week before and then one carry. How can you track that? How can you put any trust in that? And honestly, I'm just like I just say cut estimate, cut McLaughlin, and then hold on to Javonte Williams and see if he can stay hot. I mean, he looked really great last week. He looked like the running back that we saw his rookie year. So
So you're gonna go cut
if
for
I'm
him?
Sean Payton, yeah, just cut everyone else except Javonte Williams. That's how I see it. It's just not worth the predictability factor of it all.
Yeah, I'm gonna say hold just because as a rookie, I think he could take over that role down the stretch. He's a big body guy in this cold weather that's coming, especially in Denver. I could see him taking over some of that goal line, and at some point they got to run Bo Nix a little less. That's dangerous for a
Yeah.
franchise quarterback in his
Probably
rookie
rookie of
year.
the year. Yeah.
It's possible. You know, he's coming in hot, but Jaden Daniels, I think, has got a pretty good hold. And
Good
Brock
lead.
Bowers, hey, Brock Bowers coming in
Sure.
hot as well. Like if he sets the
Well, you
record,
know how they feel about awards. They only like to give it to quarterbacks.
yeah, but if you set an award, then you kind of get like if he gets the most receptions for a tight end ever, kind of hard to
Yeah.
not give him Rookie of the Year. You know, it's like, well, he just had one of the best
I
tight end
mean,
seasons ever. Like, he's the third best rookie. Like, not so
when Christian
much.
McCaffrey, it's like the MVP award. Christian McCaffrey had like the most insane year possible. Cooper Kupp has the most insane year possible. MVP is going to the quarterback.
Yeah, it's life in the NFL.
Yeah,
Christian
exactly.
Watson, another guy we got on this list. He's a
Yeah.
tough one to peg because I mean he blew up last week, but was on like four catches. I mean, four catches for a buck
I
50 without a touchdown. That takes some talent.
Yeah, for me, I wanted to say start because I think Jordan Love is about to catch a bit of fire here. I think Jordan Love has been battling injuries throughout the season. He's had some grueling games. I know he's got a tough divisional schedule toward the end of the year, but I think Jordan Love comes in to his own. Christian Watson is the type of player that they've been hoping him to be since since 3 years ago. Everyone's been drafting him again. He's like, this dude's a speedster. This guy's huge. He's gonna catch. So I think that they're starting to find the identities of these wide receivers in these systems. And now I think Christian Watson is going to be that deep threat for Jordan Love, that burner that they want added to the edge of the fields. I think this is a new dynamic that Jordan Love has been working on throughout these years, except that Christian Watson just couldn't stay healthy on the field. His hamstrings are made of literal strings or threads. I don't know what it is, but he finally is healthy. So I think it's a start.
Yeah, I'm gonna say hold on that one. I don't want to start
Okay.
a guy that's that volatile. I mean, if you really need to because of the buys, I understand it, but
Yeah.
he's a guy that I just even I mean I could even see cutting him really. I don't think he's a guy that
Interesting.
should be in your starting lineup. Like if you need him at the flex, if you have to start, 3 wide receivers. I think he's a little bit more likely to be in that spot, but he's just so volatile. I mean, he could easily go out there and get you one catch for 13 yards this week. Like, I just don't think he's someone you can count on down the stretch. If one of the other Packers receivers gets hurt, or if they're in a great matchup, that's a little bit different for me. But this week, I've got him as a hold. I just don't think you can trust him. And one more here for the redraft league. Jonnu Smith had a hot week last week. He's been hot and cold. He's even a guy that I'm considering starting at my flex this week, but I'm also considering cutting him. So it's like, I don't know
You
if
have
you really
to
need
figure
it.
out tight end position, right? Like it's been really bizarre. No one's really blown up. I think he's worth the hot cold. Like it's worth getting 20 points from your tight end if you can, and then eating like 4 points if you're not, because that's usually what it is, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think at your tight end position, he's a lot more. If you
Yeah.
picked him up off the waiver wire, you've been streaming tight ends all year. Like, I'm fine rolling with him, but if you've got a solid tight end, it's a little bit
Yeah.
better than him, or maybe it's because of the bye weeks. If you're starting him this week because you had a Taysom Hill or Kyle Pitts, like I think he's a great fill-in for this week. But um, I'm not going to go crazy and think that Jonnu Smith's going to save my season. But he's been producing more than Jalen Waddle, so that's interesting. It's a
It's not
interesting
hard though.
design. And Jonnu's one of those guys that I just feel like if he had gone to the right system and situation and been used correctly his whole career, he could have been a really good, solid top 10 tight end that everyone was just like, yeah, of course you start Jonnu Smith. But he's bounced around a lot. Maybe he's finally found a home there in Miami. I think it's Miami
There's
Mike
one
finally
play.
cutting him free.
There's one play where they designed it strictly for Jonnu Smith to score a touchdown. So when you have those type of designs, it's a pretty good sign for your players.
Oh yeah, I've seen like fake reverses that then turn into a tight end screen for Jonnu Smith, and I'm like, man, they are really digging deep in that Jonnu Smith like play sheet. Like Jalen Waddle like really pissed off Mike McDonald this offseason or something because he is not getting anything designed up for him. Like
I always get it wrong too. McDaniels. We got Seahawks McDonald's,
Mike
Dolphins
McDaniel.
McDaniels.
Oh, I know it's too many
I
mix.
just call them McDonald's. Let's go. Let's get one of the
Miami
McDonald's.
Mike. Like I'm just gonna keep it
Miami
short.
Mike.
Miami Mike. Like let's just keep it real. Who else is
He
Miami
does.
right now?
It is a speaking of Miami Mike, he as the years go on, he looks a little more Miami every day. And I'm looking at you. You're looking a little bit more Miami every time we get on here too. We got a little the Miami look today.
It's the humidity. Yeah, next week I'm gonna have a chain, like just really blinging it
Yeah,
out.
yeah, yeah.
Maybe get a little grill, maybe a
The
little
glasses on.
little tooth stud, like have a little sparkle to it. We'll see. I don't know what the producers will say, but
Yeah.
fuck them anyway. So we got some dynasty start hold cuts.
Yeah.
You can go ahead and start with any of them off this list. We're running a little short on time, so we're have to
Yeah.
decide.
Let's
We
go with
might just say
Marvin
fuck it, do
Mims.
it live.
Yeah. Marvin Mims, man. I mean, what a resurgence this guy has had in the last couple weeks. So a really promising
Not a
rookie.
resurgence if you never surged
That's
before.
true. I mean, he had so much high expectations as a rookie. You're like, look at this burner. This guy's gonna be great, and nowhere to be found. And that franchise was a whole mess last year. And now with Bo Nix, it seems like Bo Nix. We expected Troy Franklin to kind of be in that spot, but Marvin Mims like, hey, remember me? I can do the same things, and I've been here longer. So I like Marvin Mims. I think this is only the beginning. If you're desperate because of bye weeks, could be a start on for you, but you're gonna look for those explosive plays. But they're designing plays for him. When we're talking about Johnny Smith, they're designing gadget plays for Marvin Mims.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think in Dynasty, it's very different for who you're looking at holding, starting, and cutting. Because I mean, I definitely want to hang on to a guy like that. I just spent some fab to get him back. I was like regretting cutting him, and I was happy nobody else grabbed him. So, were you
Yeah.
going to go start or hold there for Mims?
I think he's on the edge of start if you really are desperate and you're looking at the matchup and you're like, hey, he's going to get some plays here. But absolutely hold for sure. That's easy for me.
All right, I'm going to go with start then, just to get a little spicy. I'm going to say we got a bunch of week 12 buys. You got to get him in the lineup after he's finally getting these screen passes and he's getting rushes. I think that we're looking at a time now where he's kind of guaranteed 5 touches a game, which is right on that threshold, for a flex. You've got some deeper leagues where you're starting multiple flexes. I think he's a start in those situations, or if you're hit hard by the buys. I mean,
Yeah.
it's definitely better than grabbing someone off the waiver wire, unless it's, maybe one of these Raiders running backs. I mean, I don't know. What do you like either Dylan Lobb
Hey,
or
stay
Amir
away. Stay
Abdullah?
away. No, Amir Abdul. I'm like, this guy's still in the league. This is crazy. I couldn't believe. I was like, he's like, when you see all the trends in fantasy, I'm like, why are people picking up Amir Abdul? I know the injuries and everything, but this guy has not been able to produce anywhere he's been, let alone the Raiders that are going to try to tank. Gardner Minshew might start his last game ever, as like a true starter, and this guy's going to air it out. I just don't see a situation. I'd rather start Marvin Mims over any of these Raiders running backs. I'm cutting them all. I don't want. They're all curses. I don't want any of them on my team.
Yeah, the biggest advantage I think for those Raiders running backs, why I say they're kind of a hold, is just because Alexander Madison and Zamir White have been so bad that if
So bad.
either of these
Everyone.
running backs like show some sort of like great receiving ability, like I don't expect they're not between tackle runners. There's a reason they were the third and fourth string running backs, and now they're getting bumped up. But if one of them can show some nice receiving chops, maybe some moves in the open field, put out 6 receptions for over 50 yards, I could see them locking in that number 2 running back role, or be that third down back, that receiving
Right.
back for that team, because I don't think that's a job that really fits, obviously not Zamir White, but either Alexander Madison. I mean, I think they're both more of those early down grinders and bruisers. And with a new regime likely coming in next year, who does Tom Brady like? Which of these running
Right.
backs reminds you of a Tom Brady back? And I would say Dylan Lobb and Amir Abdullah look a lot more like James White than Zamir White looks like LeGarrette Blount. So if he's kind of trying to replicate something like that, it'll be interesting to see how much of a change we see in Vegas next year. But I think it's going to be a lot of changes. And really, Dylan Lobb might be the only running back of those 4 still on the team
Stay.
next year.
Yeah. That's a good
So
point. Yeah. Dynasty, you're right. Maybe hold, but I'm going with Raiders are a curse. I don't want
stick
to
to
touch
your
any of them.
guns. Don't back down like a little bitch. You
Nah,
gotta,
yeah, I don't want Raiders.
stay strong when we go live.
I am staying strong. I look at the Raiders team and I just want to puke. All right, this one I think we should try to find opposite ends because it's a really interesting player. Is Kareem Hunt? We got like for me with Kareem Hunt after next week, I think you can start thinking about cutting him. I just think you cannot. There's no way that this running back's going to survive another season doing what he just did. Okay, he's like, oh, I'm just going to sit on the couch and wait until the half of the year, and Andy Reid will give me a call. He'll need me. I
But
just
with
don't think.
Pacheco out, Pacheco's out this week. They're playing Carolina. I think he's a must
Yeah,
start this week.
this week. But if you're talking about, looking ahead, you start him this week, and I think it's time to let him go. Just let him do the swan song this week. The swan song is this week, and then let him go.
Yeah, I'm gonna say hold for him just because Pacheco's coming back from
Sure.
serious injury, like broken foot, more or less, broken leg. Not exactly sure. I think we could see at the end of the season, it might come out
Yeah.
that he had some ligament issues, some other things. They always kind of gloss over how bad
Yeah.
injuries are a lot of times. And so I think for the rest of the season, he's a hold because if Pacheco gets banged up, isn't able to play through the fantasy playoffs, we've seen Kareem Hunt producing like an RB2 this whole time since he came to Kansas City, really.
Right.
So if it's not Pacheco, then he's a solid RB2, or there's a chance that Pacheco gets worked back really slowly, and they don't want Pacheco
Maybe.
to
Yeah.
take a full load until the playoffs. At which point Kareem Hunt could still be a flex back, and we've got so many buys. Week 12, week 14, 6 teams on buy both weeks. Like I wouldn't blame anybody for starting him in those spots. It's gonna get tough.
But would you agree this may be Kareem Hunt's like last full season as an RB2? I just think how sustainable is it to come off your couch every year in the middle of the season and be like, all right, time, and like produce the way he has? It just,
I
I
think
can't
he's gonna.
imagine it keeps happening.
I know. I mean, he's definitely a solid RB2 in the XFL next year. I mean, like he's going to tear up the XFL this spring. Like
Yeah.
there's no doubt about it. But yeah, 30 years old as a running back, as things are getting long in the tooth at that point.
All right, real quick. Start, hold, cut Daniel Jones. What are you doing for not just obviously this week, for the next season? Is he done? Is this the last we see of Daniel Jones as a starting quarterback in the NFL?
I don't think start is an option unless he gets
No.
signed really quick. I mean,
Yeah.
the only teams I've heard even that make sense for him to be a starter would be Las Vegas or Dallas.
Also
Dallas would be
places that want to tank.
right. So, well, but yeah, it's like they already have a tanker in. So it's like, you really, is Daniel Jones going to help or hurt? Or the other thing, I guess I heard that he was playing safety for the scout team for the Giants last week, and
Someone
that's probably why he asked for his release, because he's like, "Fuck this,
probably.
I'm not going to play safety." But I'd like to see Daniel Jones in that Taysom Hill role. If some other teams
Oh yeah.
start saying, "Hey, our backup quarterback is going to be athletic, let's have him do some other things on the field," I think Daniel Jones could catch some passes. I've seen him look pretty elusive with the ball in his hand. Like I probably don't want him, setting the edge or crackback blocking, but if he goes into this offseason, juices it up, gets a little stronger, he can play that Taysom Hill role. But I'm going to go with cut at this point. I just
Yeah.
don't see him getting signed as a starter. I don't see there being any opportunities for quarterbacks next year. To be honest, I think Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson are going to be in a bidding war to see who the Steelers quarterback is next year. And the Steelers are going to say, how low can you go? Because there's not another team that needs a quarterback that's a playoff contender. So what if you're one of these teams looking for a quarterback, why would you want an older quarterback? And Daniel Jones, he's not an older quarterback, but he's not young, and he's not someone you want to build your team around. I think he's going to go to one of these teams, maybe goes to Tennessee and backs up Will Levis. Like that's kind of a good fit because
Yeah.
Will Levis may or may not work out. You could
They're both
develop it,
hilarious
see if that
quarterbacks.
works. But I mean, yeah, there's just not. I mean, is there even a space for Jameis next year to be
Yeah,
a
that's a
starter?
good point.
Probably not. Like he looks good enough, but unless Derek Carr, like all of these guys, I think are going to go to teams that draft a quarterback. They get to start for the first 4 to 6 weeks, and then they're back to the bench. And
Yeah.
obviously we're talking super flex here. Daniel Jones he hasn't been owned in a one quarterback league in at least 26 months. It's
Yeah.
like been quite
The
quite a while for him there.
I saw something on social media is like, all right, Daniel Jones, you give the ball enough away, I need you to go get it back. So we'll go play safety on the scout team.
Brutal.
Brutal.
I
I
mean,
know.
asking them to tackle at that point of their career, like
Yeah, he's like, get me the fuck out. Are you serious? I'd be like, there's like video of him just running in circles at practice. I'm like, this is exactly how I would be as an employee if you're like fucking around with me. I'm like, I'll fuck around too.
Jameis Winston had some fun in the snow. You see him making that tackle on that fumble. He's like, I don't know
Dude,
where. I want to see the all 22 of that because all of a sudden he's 20 yards downfield trying to force a fumble after his team fumbled. Pretty funny, but
have you seen those leagues where like you get 100 points if your quarterback gets a tackle? it's
no, that
it's
sounds a
it's
little. So what? Then you're trying to start like a Daniel Jones or
yeah,
like a guy
exactly.
that throws a pick is like the best quarterback. It's like talk about risk reward right there. Like
I feel like Jameis is on top of that list for sure. Yeah, man, Jameis looked great, and there needs to be a case study on Jameis Winston. How do you go from the most hated quarterback coming into the league to one of the most beloved quarterbacks after 10 years? It's like Geno Smith on steroids at this
I think it's
moment.
the culture shift. I really do. I think it's,
Yeah,
if he came into the league now, I think he'd be a lot more beloved. The
yeah,
authenticity. That's what we've been talking about. Like 10 years ago, being authentic was like, oh, why can't you? You're supposed to
right.
be like
Say
Russell
what
Wilson.
you're saying.
Like
Yeah,
Russell Wilson's the exact same guy he was
yeah,
10 years ago. And he went from being beloved for being like, it's all about the team, go Hawks,
and that's
this and
crazy.
that. Like he would always say the perfect answer in interviews. And Jameis would always say wild shit in interviews. And now it's like what people want has just completely flipped.
Yeah,
It's like Back then, we
Great.
wanted a Barack Obama. Now the country wants a Donald Trump. I mean, it's just
Here we
a
go.
paradigm shift in what has gone on in the
Yeah.
culture. You know, it's just
Yeah.
very different world we're living in.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm rooting for Jameis. I hope he continues success and continues to play in the snow. It's freaking hilarious.
Oh yeah, we'll see. I mean, if it's snowing already in Cleveland, they could definitely get some more of it. And that looked
Yeah.
like some fun snow. You know, that's not some Washington State
The
snow
hard
that's just
shit.
like
Yeah.
mucky and wet and just ugh, don't even want to
Yeah.
ski in it. You know, that's some nice, dry, fluffy
Yeah.
powder. I mean, people are diving in it in their suits afterwards in the post game show.
Awesome. That
You
was
know,
great.
everybody but Tony Gonzalez. Like it's like
Classic.
that's how
Miami.
Tony Gonzalez
Miami guy.
played until he was 40. He's like, I'm not getting dirty. I'm not getting down in the mud. I'm not mucking it up. I'm
Right.
not going to try to recover a fumble. No, I catch passes. I catch touchdowns.
Yeah. 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 Exactly. I stay
I
upright.
break goalposts with my dunks. You know, like that's about it. Like I go high. I don't go low.
That's great. All right, producer Thomas, shut up. We're about to come on. You go with the format? I think this is gonna be good. I think they're gonna like it.
I think it's nice. Yeah. Hopefully the fans like it. Hopefully we get some good feedback on X. We'll see. You know,
Yeah.
you can tweet me at Geoff McNish. You know, we'll see what happens.
All right.
Nothing mean
Let's
though.
do it.
Fuck that. Like don't come at me like that. And I'm not on Blue Sky. I'm not playing that
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
You,
Yeah. There's
social
other
media,
social media.
new social media has to survive at least 3 to 5 years before I touch it. Like I'm not an early
High standard.
adopter. Yeah,
Yeah.
no. Until they come out with
You're
something
already
where
stuck your ways.
until I can post everything at once, like nah, not interested.
Hey, $1 million idea. All right.